over, and now we're into the verse. And what's interesting about the verse is it's the exact same chord progression as the intro. And if you listen to the song, you might hear that that chord progression repeats a few times, and then it does something a little different. And in the beginning of the first verse, once the vocals come in, the progression repeats 4 times, and then after the 4th time, it goes something like this. And then back into the progression. So what was that? Basically, what I was doing there was just playing an F sharp major chord to an A chord. My wonderful friends, upon watching this video back, I realized there were a few key details I left out. So there are going to be lots of jump cuts in this video, like a classic 2013 vlogger on YouTube. And so the first thing I realized is, just in case some of you don't know, I never broke down how to play a major bar chord, because you know what? You might be a beginner, and no worries, I will break it down for you if you don't know. So what you're going to do is take your first finger and bar it across all of these strings, meaning you're pressing down on all of these strings. And now I totally understand when you're starting out, it's hard to do and it hurts. And everyone's been there, and it'll come in time, I promise. Once you get it, you get it. And suddenly a whole world of possibility opens up for you, and it's just getting over that first initial learning curve that's really tough, and totally remember what that feels like. And I still experience it all the time, you know, when you reach an obstacle and you're playing. But basically I'll break down this chord, or I'll continue breaking down this chord. So you have your first finger barring it across all of these strings here, and I'm starting on the 2nd fret just because, you know, I just spoke with that F sharp major bar chord. And you're going to take that ring finger right there, and you're going to plant it on the 4th fret of the A string. And you're going to take your pinky, put it on the 4th fret of the D string. You're going to take your middle finger, and you're going to put it on the 3rd fret of the D string. And then, hopefully, you have enough pressure going on there on the top 2 strings here that they ring out. And if you're just starting out, again, it'll be hard to get all the strings to ring out, but one exercise that really helps is just putting all your fingers there and just go through each note one by one until they ring out. And if they don't have enough pressure, it might sound something like that. It might go out of tune if you put too much pressure, but you'll find the balance. There you go. And I could go through and break down how many times the progression happens every time before the little F sharp to A movement, but I think that my homework to you as a teacher, if you're learning the song, is maybe go through and listen yourself, because it firstly would take a long time, and I don't want to take up that much time in your life. Also, I think it's a really good exercise to practice, you know, learning songs by listening too, because, you know, music is obviously an auditory experience, and the more you're able to bridge the connection between the notes you hear and what you're able to play, and vice versa, I think the stronger a musician you become, in my opinion at least. And anyways, yeah, that's what's going on in the verse. And what happens is the 2nd time we get that little movement, we move on to the chorus. So I'll play the chorus for you one time through, and then I'll break it down. That's the chorus. So what's happening there? You're playing a bar chord up here, the 7th fret of the A string. That bar chord right up there, an E major bar chord. Another chord I realized I may have forgotten to break down, I don't know why I forgot to break down all these chords, is the major bar chord that we're playing up here on the 7th fret, the E major bar chord, which has its root on the A string as opposed to on the E string, like the other chords we were playing. So again, you're barring your first finger right here across the 7th fret. You're adding your ring finger right here and barring it across the 7th fret, starting from the D string, if that makes sense. So your first finger is playing the 7th fret of the A string, and then starting from the D string, your ring finger is barring across all of these notes here. And if you really want, you can also have this note going on here, which is the 6th. But you don't have to. I think a lot of people opt to leave that note out when they're playing that chord, and it's just totally up to you and what you think sounds best in the situation, because music is all about playing what's appropriate and sounding good. That's my quote of the day. It's not a good one, but I believe in it adamantly and firmly and from the core of my being. Moving on. And then you're moving down to this A major bar chord, which is starting from the 5th fret of the E string. Same A major chord we played before. And then you move it down a semitone to A flat. And then you move it down to G. And you move it down to F sharp. So in time, this is what it sounds like so far. Cool. And then you're going to take that F sharp, you're going to move it back up to the A, and you're going to move it back up to the B. And in time again, it sounds like this. So, at this point, if you've listened to the song before, we've played the intro, and then we play the verse, and we're into the chorus. Now, after the chorus is the guitar solo part. And before we get into that, I'm just going to quickly break down the lead guitar part throughout this song as well, because it's actually pretty similar to the rhythm guitar part, but a few of the chords are a little different. So it's the same, but different. And it sounds like this, and we're going to start from the verse. Right, so as you can hear, it's pretty similar actually. There's just one chord that's a little different. And so we start with that E major chord, and then we move it up to this chord right here, which is an A flat major chord. But what's cool about this, though you could play it like a bar chord, that would totally work. I'm playing it in Jimi Hendrix style, which means you're taking your thumb and you're using that to play the root note right there. And then you're taking your 3rd finger and putting it on the 6th fret of the D string, and your middle finger goes on the 5th fret of the G string, and your 1st finger is barring across the 4th fret of the B string and the E string. And so you might be asking yourself, what about the A string? It's muted. I'm using my thumb to sort of cover not only the E string, but also the A string as well. So it should sound like this if you play each note one by one. Right, there we go, that's the chord. And what's cool about this chord is you can move it all around the neck. It's my favorite way to play a major chord because you can so easily add all these little colors. The 9, the 6, and the sus4. And that's something that a lot of players that I really look up to, you know, used in their playing, like Jimi Hendrix and Curtis Mayfield. And I love it. And so I actually do add the 9 in that chord when I'm playing it, and I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my pinky and I'm adding that to the 6th fret of the E string, and then taking it off again. And then going back up to the same chord that we went over before, which is the E major chord, up here at the 7th fret, and then back down to the E string. And that's basically all I do. There is one other thing I should mention, if you want to spice it up a little bit. I do this a lot when we're playing live, and it sounds like this.